Assalamu alaikum and welcome to all of you. Today we have a webinar on cloud computing. So let's start the webinar by the introduction. Okay, so when we talk about cloud computing, either we hear it somewhere, like a buzzword, or we use it, and in some form in our daily lives, or we want to learn it. Why? Because we are proceeding with some growth, and we have some plans to go with the cloud computing and so on. So in any case, it's a there was a time when Microsoft Office and even typewriting was completely a niche skill. And in today's world, even for the non-IT people, usually companies they expect everyone to be familiar with Microsoft Office. That would be becoming a case for cloud computing in the next few years as well. As we see, there is a huge growth in cloud computing and so on. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the topic. So in today's session, we will talk a little bit about your learning partner, who we are, what we do, etc. Go a little bit deep with some details around the cloud computing, what it is, a little bit of history, why it becomes so popular, what it is being used, use cases, etc., etc. Some of the leading cloud providers or cloud service providers. Then what kind of guidelines, principle, in the industry standards are available that we can look into, while working on the cloud. And in bonus, we also have a small session for you for the instructor-led trainings, why they are important, and why why they have more value as compared to what is available over the internet. I would request all of you to post your questions in chat during the session so that we can answer you after each of the topic. Okay, a little bit about your learning partner. BAZTechKnow, as you all know, it is a platform founded by Bashir Saab. Yeah, it is more focused on the customized trainings, consultation, whether it is one-to-one, professional growth, personal growth, and also coming up with the approach to the community so that the knowledge can be shared across. It is really a good start for such an approach. Why? Because usually when people start their careers in IT, especially in IT, or they are coming from any other profession and wanted to learn something in IT, they usually don't know where to start. And it is better to have some guidance that, okay, what they want to learn, how they can learn it, if those learnings can be customized according to the objective of such a person, whether it is professional or personal. So this is where BAZTechKnow help you a lot to understand your requirements, your needs, and customize the trainings and hands-on sessions, including the labs for you. I'm a part of BAZTechKnow. I'm fortunate enough to be a part of BAZTechKnow. My name is Mohammad Asif Iqbal. I have 20 plus years experience in IT infrastructure, in a wide variety of areas, including management, projects, end user experience, design thinking, trainings, workshops. Have a couple of certifications in Microsoft, AWS, data center, ITIL, and many more. You can check out my details later on. So let's quickly jump into what we are here to learn. So cloud computing, thousands of definitions that you can find on the internet about the cloud computing. So usually it is very confusing to see, every other cloud vendor or service provider has their own um, definition of cloud computing, how to simplify that, how to make it more understandable, and so on. Usually when we talk about the cloud computing, it is more about one window solution that you can get from the vendors or cloud service providers. we can go a little bit deeper, to understand what cloud computing is, by looking at the history that, usually if we go to the late 90s and early 2000, usually there were on-prem data centers, available. Usually every company has their own data center where you can find physical servers. Each server has assigned single or multiple roles to entertain a couple of users or hundreds of users. But there were so many challenges, especially in terms of scalability, when especially for the businesses which were growing with very fast pace. So what happens that, okay, one day you are running your resources in your own data center, and then you find that, okay, there is another company which is going to be merged with your company, or there is a new division starting where you have more applications to be hosted, etc., etc. And then you come into trouble that, okay, how to scale up your IT infrastructure to host those applications. And usually, you order the servers, they take a couple of months to arrive, then you set them up in your data center. There are questions around the space availability in the racks. There are questions around the electricity consumption, cooling consumption, capacity, and so on. And it becomes too expensive to go on with such scalability. Again, on the other hand, while running those servers, you cannot turn them off, because so it means that whether the users are using it or not using it, it becomes very expensive to keep those servers running. And then there are some physical security risks associated with them. There are skills that are required to run those data centers, to understand data center requirements and hosting those physical servers. So before we jump into the computing part, there is always a good time to start. So even I'm almost 50 years old. I started my cloud computing journey a couple of years ago. So there is no age limit, or there is no skill limit to learn a new skill. And make no mistake, this cloud computing is not just a buzzword. It is a technology, variant that you use in most of the companies today. It is also a skill set that you require to skill up yourself and grow in your profession, and so on. So let's continue there. A little bit of history of cloud computing. When we talk about cloud computing, we need to understand that, okay, how it all started from the computing part. So the word, if we look at mid 1900s, there was an era when all the computing power was mostly associated with personal gains, and that is the reason it was called personal computer, PC or something like that. Then the IBM, they came up with an idea of mainframe. Mainframe was an idea that, okay, how we can utilize one server to serve multiple users, or multiple users can connect to it and start working on it. It was a very niche concept at the start. It was very expensive. Even the learning was very expensive at that point of time. People pay thousands of dollars just to learn how to use mainframe, how to connect to the mainframe, how to utilize the application on it, and so on. Later on in 1970s, ARPANET came up with this idea of the internet, and then start building up the networks. In the late 1970s, a concept came which is called client server. Like, there are servers which can be used by multiple clients or workstations, assigning them a couple of different roles, whether they are going to be file servers, application servers, database servers, and so on. Then in 2006, actually, Google CEO Eric Schmidt utters the term cloud. And from there, it took the stand that, okay, what cloud is. So cloud is something which is not tangible, that you can utilize the compute power or compute requirements on demand over the network or over the internet, usually over the internet, if we look at today. Then there was an era when we started using the virtualization to make sure that we are, consuming all the resources at their optimum level, um, not to leave anything behind, and make them most cost efficient. And while using the virtualization, we came up with this idea of private cloud, that okay, we have one physical server, and over that we have the hypervisor to virtually run multiple servers and then utilize the whole resources of that physical hardware, like all the cores of the CPUs, RAM, storage, and so on. Then fast forward in 2000, starting from 2002, Amazon actually started this concept of AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. They initially started it as one of the key need, to be fulfilled for their Amazon.com or their retail services, business case, where they need to decouple their applications to fulfill the requirements of millions of their users to post their orders, and to make sure that their database servers will be able to entertain all those orders without dropping anything else. And then all the hybrid and cloud computing emerges in late 2010s, where you can see that Apple is coming up with this iCloud, Google Drive, and so on. So all of these forms are actually a part of cloud computing. Okay, now comes the definition. You can find a lot of definitions everywhere, so don't get confused. A simple term for cloud computing is, when we talk about cloud computing, it usually refers to the delivery of on-demand compute services remotely, whether on the private network or over the internet. Um, when we talk about the cloud services, it usually refers to not only the compute part, which is the virtual servers or serverless, environments, but also to storage, databases, and so on. So there are hundreds of services that we can refer to as cloud computing. Um, the importance here is that they are on demand, they are very agile, so you can quickly spin off a couple of servers within a few minutes. It is very scalable, so you can start from, let's say, one server, and you can spin off hundreds or even thousands of servers within a few minutes. This is how fast it is. Um, it is very flexible, so you can run your servers from any region in the world, depending on your service provider, if they are available. And it is very cost effective because you only pay on the go. So you only pay what you use. That's it. Other than that, you can simply decommission those servers quickly within minutes. You don't, and even you can automate the entire infrastructure or your entire compute requirements and their scalability, so that you don't need to increase the number of servers or decrease the number of servers manually. So this is the beauty of cloud computing. You can access them, you can utilize the resources without the need of any local infrastructure. You just need your laptop, and that's it. You can use it anywhere from any internet device across the world. um, you need by doing that, it makes you enable to focus on your core business rather than the IT infrastructure requirements or the management of the IT infrastructure, or your compute requirements. So when we talk about cloud computing types, there are a couple of types, and there, first is the private cloud, which means that you can set up your own cloud within your own data center if you deem to. You can use hypervisors like VMware, Oracle Cloud, um, and cloud stack, these kind of things. So it means that you have your own data center, you have your own hardware, but you want to create a virtual environment so that you can easily manage it and you can utilize your resources in a very in the most optimized way. Then we talk about the public cloud, which is usually the term when anyone is talking about the cloud. So you get the services from one of the cloud service providers. They can be local, they can be global. For example, when we talk about in Pakistan, in Pakistan you have a very few of the cloud providers like PDCL and so on, who actually have their own data centers, who are resilient, and they provide the hosting requirements, compute requirements, databases, etc., etc. Um, then we have the public cloud, where you can, the global cloud providers like Amazon, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba, Oracle, IBM. They have their own, let's say, characteristics. We will discuss it a little bit later. So you can go worldwide with those public cloud providers. Then we have hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud is a combination of private and public cloud. I can give you a quick example here. So I'm working in Novartis. Novartis is a global organization. We have more than 135,000 IT users, and we have thousands of applications that are being consumed by those users. So right now we have our own global data center where we have deployments of let's say identity and access management, directory services, file services, etc., etc. But we are also consuming services from AWS, where we have recently hosted our SAP, the ERP solution. We also are consuming Microsoft Azure, where we are having a D365, which is Microsoft Dynamics solution. It is again an ERP solution that is very dedicated to one of our business unit. So you can, the organizations today, they can have multiple setups. They can go with private cloud if they have small footprint. They can go public cloud if they have large footprint. They can have hybrid cloud even, depending on the business needs. In some cases, usually small businesses actually utilize cloud computing as their backup to store their data, to make sure that in case if if their on-prem data center is no more available due to any disaster, they can quickly jump to the cloud and start running their business from there. And then there are, again, some more complex and more, let's say, versatile kind of cloud computing types, like multi-cloud, having multiple cloud vendors rather than going with one single service provider. And also the community cloud, which means that you can have community services running from the cloud hostings. Okay, now let's talk about the servicing model. Um, when we talk about cloud, it means that we are talking about the resources that we are going to hire or consume from different service providers. What kind of services are there, which we can utilize to fulfill our business needs? So we can start from the infrastructure as a service. It means that we hire the infrastructure on demand, like compute, storage, network, databases, etc. We use them. Uh, so, and then on top of that, we can have our own applications hosting, our own code running, development environment, and so on. So the infrastructure component will remain the responsibility with the service provider. We can hide that, we can use it on demand, and then we can simply run everything on top of that by ourselves. So the actually infrastructure as a service, it actually includes most of the basic cloud computing services like compute, storage, network. It is built around pay as you go, uh, by renting the servers, virtual machines, storage, network, operating systems from a cloud provider. Um, it also provides you the agility to instantly provision your compute service, your compute requirements, like the infrastructure, like the servers, etc. We will see it in a couple of minutes how to do that. there are a couple of pros and cons there. So it is flexible and dynamic model. It is very cost efficient. It is easy to use. Management tasks like the hardware, the data center, cooling, electricity, and these kind of stuff, scaling, and so on. It is completely, these kind of stuff, they go with the service provider. So you are not responsible for that. You just are utilizing their infrastructure as a service. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, if tomorrow I need maybe 100 more servers, or let's say 1 petabyte of storage in the next 1 month, you don't need to worry about it. It is the responsibility with your um, with your vendor or with your cloud provider, that okay, how they will manage it at the back end. But the cons is that, when we talk about the infrastructure as a service, it usually goes with the multi-tenant. So maybe, some of your servers will go to one data center and the other go to another data center, depending uh, on your selection. So data security might become a challenge there. And then on top of that, when we talk about cloud computing, it means that if you go with one or multiple vendors, it means that you need to train your team or your users that okay, how to utilize those services. And in some cases, the wait time in such in failures of those data centers or those services would become a pain point for them. Now let's jump to the second level, which is called the platform as a service. So platform as a service, when we talk about them, it means that you don't even need to worry about the infrastructure. You just have a clear vision that, okay, you have this kind of application, you need this kind of runtime to run this service or run this application. And you just ask the service provider that, okay, I have this application which is being coded in, let's say, C++ or any other language. You just provide me the platform, to run these services, and the backend infrastructure will become a responsibility of the service provider. Okay, how they will manage it. You just give your simple requirements that, okay, I need to run this application. It needs to be highly available. It requires this database, etc., etc., and that's it. Rest of the responsibility goes with the vendor. They will manage your database server. They will manage your auto scaling, your availability, load balancing, etc., etc. You are responsible only for your code, and that's it. And then the last part, which is software as a service, where you don't need to go do anything at all. You just get the service from the vendor. For example, your emails, your documents, your application streams. I can give you a quick example, like we are using Zoom right now. So it is also a software as a service. We can call your emails, your Google Documents, Apple iCloud, and all these kind of stuff. It is actually software as a service. When we talk about platform as a service, again, there are certain challenges comes with it, like the data security, compatibility, dependency on the vendor's speed, reliability of your vendor, support model from your vendor, and so on. Because you are just providing your code and you ask them to run everything from there. So they are responsible for a lot of things. So it means that it is very critical to choose the right vendor or the right service provider and see that, okay, what is their footprint, what is their compatibility with different languages, what is their support model, and so on. From the software as a service, when we talk about the advantages, you have the auto upgrade, so you don't need to worry about anything. Backend infrastructure, backend platform, everything is supported by your vendor. So all the upgrades, hardware setup, cost, customization, everything is the responsibility of your service provider. However, it means that you have very limited range of solutions, when it crashes. And since the vendor has the full control, it means that you have high dependency on your vendor. So in case if Apple iCloud service goes down for some reason, it means that I won't be able to access my documents or my photos or my data from them, and I need to wait. until and unless this service comes back. So this is a graphical representation of infrastructure as a service versus platform as a service versus software as a service. So in a typical world, pre-cloud era, you have everything running in your data center. So you are responsible for each and everything, like your storage, network, compute, virtual machines, operating system, applications, runtimes, data and access, and even beyond that, like the hardware and so on. But when you go to cloud and you take the infrastructure as a service, it means that compute, networking, and storage, these goes with the cloud provider. It is managed by a cloud provider, and rest on top of the things, you need to decide and configure and manage all of these things by yourself. In the case of platform as a service, you just need to worry about your application, your coding, your data and access. Rest of the things goes with the service provider or managed by the service provider. And when we talk about software as a service, it means that you just need to think about the data and access, and rest of each and everything is the responsibility of your cloud provider. So just a visualization to make it more understandable. Now let's talk about cloud computing versus other solutions. So when we talk about cloud computing, uh, the most outcome or the most fruitful thing around the cloud computing is that it is on demand. So you don't need to have everything available or running in advance, which means that you don't need to think about, okay, how many servers I will require, or how many servers I will be needing in the next 2 months or 3 months or the next 2 years and so on. The second thing is that if you go with the global service providers, usually they come with the resiliency. So there is no single point of failures. So when we talk about AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, they have their own regions. In each of the region, they have their own availability zones. In each of the availability zones, they have multiple data centers. So to some extent, you will get the resiliency by default. Scalability, again, it is a very big benefit going with cloud computing, which means that you don't need to worry about that. Okay, if tomorrow your business grows and one of your application which is running on 2 servers, it will require 10 servers. You can simply auto scale it, or you can just ask your service provider to give you more on demand servers and so on. Pay as you go, it is again cost effectiveness. So you can use your um, services, or you can use your resources on the cloud computing in a most optimized way. I can give you an example quickly here. So for example, you are running some services from your cloud, which are being utilized only by your developers, let's say 100 servers, some storage, databases, etc., etc. These developers, they actually code the application, they maintain the application, etc., etc. And they only do it during 9 to 5 hours. So you can set up and plan your cloud computing resources specific to those developers to be up and running during only those hours, so that you can reduce the cost and reduce your carbon footprint as well. So this is typically one of the example for pay as you go or the cost effectiveness. It is very agile. We will see in a couple of minutes that, okay, how quick it is to run to start any of your virtual machines within a couple of minutes in cloud computing. And it is not only to one machine. If you are using automations like auto scaling, load balancing, etc., etc., it can go up to thousands of servers within minutes. High availability, since there is a repetition of the global service providers like AWS and Azure and Google and Oracle. They are highly available. They have their footprint in the entire world, across all the continents, across all the regions, most of the cities, big cities, they have their footprint there. So whether their data centers are there, or their edge locations are there, so you can utilize their resources, their content delivery network like CDNs, like Netflix, etc., and so on. Highly flexible and collaborative, so it means that you don't need to think about accessing those resources from a fixed point. You can do it. You can have the luxury to privately connect with those service providers, whether using VPNs or whether using direct connections to them. But it is very easy to to access those resources, manage those resources from anywhere. Then we talk about the business continuity. So if you have a lot of, if you have a large footprint across different regions, different countries, different, let's say, cities, it means that you can quickly, in case of a failure or a disaster, you can quickly run your business from somewhere else in a few minutes or few hours, depending on your business requirements or your business mandate that, okay, what you have. Then you have the competitive edge, that you are utilizing the most, the latest and the greatest technologies, because it is very easy to have all the latest technologies like machine learning, AI, satellite, and these kind of stuff readily available out of the box from any of the global cloud service providers. But these are some of the advantages, but there are some challenges as well. For example, downtimes. You need to think about designing your solution in a way that, in case if you lose one availability zone or one region, then how quickly you would be able to switch to another region or another availability zone. So high availability and disaster recovery are some of the challenges that you need to think about yourself. You need to think yourself about how to run your applications. It is not a responsibility with the cloud service provider. They give you the services, but you need to choose and pick and configure that, okay, how you go with them. Then the connection dependencies, for example, if we talk about the third world countries, then there is always a question of internet connectivity, their performance, and so on. So this can become a problem. So if you don't have internet, it means that you would not be able to manage your cloud resources and so on. Then the financial commitments, we will look into them a little bit later, that, okay, how different service providers have different billing mechanisms and so on. You have security risk, because data security is not something which is the responsibility of your service provider. So you need to secure your data. You need to design your applications solutions in such a way that your data should remain secured and so on. And then in some cases, you have limited access to certain resources. Okay. So okay, so you or your company, you are thinking about going with cloud computing. Okay, what needs to be considered, when we talk about the cloud computing? So the first, if you're working uh, in a, just hold on.
So thank you for Asaf. It's been a great and uh, and please continue with the presentation. I got
Thank you, Bashir Saab. I'm sorry, there was a glitch. So let me continue from here. So when we are talking about, utilizing the cloud computing resources and, going with the cloud computing, usually it comes to a decision that, okay, what points or what areas do you need to consider before even jumping to the cloud wagon? So first of all is the overall strategic IT planning or your current business model that you need to look into, that okay, if it is most compatible with the cloud computing or not. Then we talk about the cloud computing expertise, that if you have some or you want some, you need to upskill yourself, or your company wants to upskill their resources in a way so that they can go with the cloud. Then we have the technology infrastructure management. So in hybrid cloud, it usually becomes very complex, to maintain two different solutions at a time. Um, then your application footprint, software development, and integration, if they are compatible with the cloud service provider that you are looking for. Security itself, that okay, if you have some security guidelines available or you need to start working on them from scratch. Availability of the services, across multiple regions, across multiple locations. And then last but not least, the continuous improvement, that okay, how your service provider actually continuously improve their environment, or it is just a static environment. Okay, then while choosing a cloud provider, you need to think about governance. First of all, that okay, if there are any limitations to host your data inside your country, outside your country, in some cases legal requirements are there, to comply with, and so on. Then you need to consider about your user footprint, where they are located, and you need to keep the solution as close to them as possible, just to make sure that they don't suffer from any of the network latency. Service availability, again, we just discussed that okay, if you are choosing AWS or Azure or any service provider, you need to see that okay, which services you are targeting, to host your application or run your solutions, and if they are available in the nearest region that you are opting for. And then the cost, what is the cost model, how they are going to charge you, and so on. Okay, we will look into the leading cloud service providers quickly, and then we will take the questions, from the chat. So when we talk about the leading cloud service providers, we have Azure, we have AWS. AWS is the leading one nowadays. It has been a leading one for the last couple of years. Then we have Microsoft Azure, which started just 1 year after AWS. We have Alibaba Cloud, which is more focused on hosting within China. We have Oracle Cloud, which is pioneer in databases. And we have Google Cloud, which is usually being utilized as the platform as a service, and so on. So um, when we talk about choosing a cloud provider, you need to think about what is your current and future application footprint, and which is the most compatible service provider that can provide you most of the services around it, and in the most cost efficient and optimized way. Okay, AWS, as I told you, if you look at the quadrant of strategic cloud platform services in 2023, Amazon Web Services was the leading one. It is, it is most popular for their availability, number of services, performance, security, reliability, scalability. Most of the large companies, they are actually utilizing AWS today. Why? Because they are one of the pioneers. They have Netflix is running on them. We have NASA, we have US government, we have Airbnb, um, and so on. So a lot of global applications that we can think of, they are running on AWS today. It has a huge footprint across the globe. So we are talking about 38 different regions or cities across the globe, 400 plus point of presence, cache regions, content delivery network, and so on. So I'm not going into so much detail there, but you can check their global infrastructure on their website. When we talk about the services, again, there's a lot to offer from AWS services. Each quarter, they are coming up with new services. These are just the areas that we are talking about. Like you have the analytics services, satellite, basic compute services, network and content delivery. You have container services, you have database, numerous databases which are being offered. I can name a few, like you have the RDS, relational databases, NoSQL databases, Neptune, Document DB, data warehouse solutions like Redshift, big data solutions like EMR. So you can think of any possible IT solution like IoT, blockchain, robotics, satellite, machine learning, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and so on. And you can get it directly from there within a couple of minutes rather than waiting for your service to be delivered, design the infrastructure, and so on. Um, Obviously, when they offer hundreds of services, they come up with their own certifications. So there are certain certifications that you can think of if you are planning to start with AWS. So there is one foundational certification which requires no previous experience, just a couple of knowledge around services of AWS and how they work. Then we have the associate, which is the mid-level certification, which requires at least 1 year of experience, which is recommended. It is role based, so you can think about designing the solutions, operating the solutions, operating your cloud, development, DevOps on your cloud, data engineering, machine learning, and so on. And this doesn't stop here; it goes to the professional and specialty level. So you can check it out on their website, if you want to go there. The good part about the AWS certification, which I would like to highlight here, is that it doesn't stop you to go with any of the certifications. So there is no prerequisite to go with the professional certification. You don't need any previous certifications. You can just go there and go with any of the certification. You can opt for any certification at any given point. Then we talk about a little bit about Microsoft Azure. It is the second largest cloud provider. The best thing about Microsoft Azure and its success is about the Microsoft ecosystem itself. So when we talk about enterprise level companies, we are talking about, let's say, 100,000 users which are using Windows laptops. They are, used to their services like identity and access management, databases, and so on. So it is very easy for them to go with Microsoft Azure rather than, going with AWS or any other service provider. Why? Because, most of the things which they are already utilizing are Microsoft products. So compatibility is very easy, and the good part is that Microsoft usually comes with enterprise level agreements, to sign with the big companies, so that they can have very reduced cost and they can utilize a bundle of services within the same agreement. And they have some powerful automation solutions as well. Again, their footprint is almost the same like AWS. They have 60 plus regions. They are coming up with some new regions, so you can go and check their data centers and their regions on their website. Same sort of services like we have in the in AWS. So you can get security and management, platform services, data management, infrastructure, analytics, IoT, and so on. So you can name any service, and if it is not available there, there are some kind of customized solutions both available in AWS and Microsoft Azure to go with. They provide some third-party solutions as well. Just in case if you are looking for very specific skill or technology. Azure certifications, they usually come up with the path. So usually go with the fundamentals, then go with the associate and the architect level. So it goes exactly the same way as AWS. So you need to acquire some knowledge, have some hands-on experience, and then go with the certifications. And they are valuable as well, like AWS. Okay, so this is all from the cloud computing. I just have two more slides, for the well-architected framework, which is, again, a tool from AWS. So we just took that as an example. So what does that mean? It means that, when we go with the cloud, and you are responsible for the cloud infrastructure, it means that you have to you have certain set of responsibilities that you need to plan the technical cloud strategy with the business. You need to analyze the solutions that are already available, how to go with them. You need to research, you need to build based on your knowledge and based on the best practices that are out there from the industry. So usually each of the vendor, they come up with their own frameworks, they with their own set of let's say practices and so on. This is just an example for AWS. So the AWS actually come up with a tool which is called well architected framework, where you just provide your business requirements. They evaluate it based on security, cost optimization, reliability, performance, operational excellence, sustainability, business continuity, and so on. And they give you guidelines that okay, how you can optimize each of these areas of your applications based on AWS infrastructure and based on industry standards, how other people are using it. And there is another tool which is being offered by AWS, which is called AWS Solution Library, where you can go and quickly check that okay, how other people are utilizing the same kind of application solutions that you are looking for. So here, the cloud computing session has ended. So I will hand over to Bashir Saab. But before that, I'm just going to check if there are any questions in the chat, which I can quickly answer. How can one differentiate between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service? In infrastructure as a service, you just get the infrastructure services. You need to provide, you need to manage the runtime, you need to choose the operating system, you need to choose which application you are going to install, you need to upgrade your application, operating system, and everything by yourself. So I hope that answers. Okay. How does hybrid cloud works? How hybrid cloud works when you have your own prem footprint and you need to go side by side with any of the service providers. So you usually connect your on-prem data center to your service provider. So there are a couple of ways like VPNs and direct connect, and then you can start utilizing them. So if you want more details, you can look into technical documentation with AWS, Azure, or any of the service provider that you are looking for. Okay, what other questions are there? I think these are the only two questions. Okay, there is a question. Do you believe you need any experience in AWS cloud practically to take the AWS Solution Architect Associate? Yes, yes, we do. Why? Because AWS Architect Associate level exam is something that you cannot opt without understanding how to design the solutions, and that can only be done with some hands-on labs, at least. What's your perspective of telecom companies moving into public cloud? For example, it depends on their business model. There are so many companies in the world today where even the service providers, they are providing um, backend infrastructure for specific for telecoms, pre-designed solutions for them. In terms of security, well, it depends. Security is something very subjective. It is not something that we can discuss here. But security is something that you need to that comes from your a mandate comes from your business. It is not something which is only related to your IT infrastructure or IT security. So usually it comes down from your business. Okay, Bashir Saab said that there is a service from AWS for 5G. Yes, there is, but you can also opt for other customized solutions. Okay, if we don't have any further questions, I would like to hand it over to Bashir Saab, to go with the rest of the slides. So there is a bonus for you for instructor-led trainings.
Asif sir, we can have a questions answer session for a while, and then I'll start with the this part. Can you go just one slide back?
Sure.
Okay. So if they have any question, they can ask on mic as well. If they can raise a hand, so I will allow someone to speak up, or else we'll go for the other session. Let's do it for a 5 minutes activity.
Sure. Please go ahead, unmute yourself, and if you need to ask any questions.
There were a question regarding the 5G services on AWS. Eventually, service provider will come to the cloud because 5G is all about cloud and containerization. So they have to move. Uh, it's like private 5G. So there are multiple services, but a specific name is private 5G. So you can deploy your whole 5G network on the cloud, especially if you are talking about the AWS. And
Uh,
later on, other provider will come on as well.
I can
yeah,
give
So
you a few examples. You know, the
previously,
Vodafone is a global vendor which is on AWS.
yes.
okay,
Just because
but
I'm asked if you don't
if
mind,
you have
can
any
you guys hear me?
question, sorry, please.
Can you guys hear me talking?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
please,
Please
please.
go ahead.
Oh, hey guys, firstly, thank you a lot for your session. Very informative. I just mentioned this part for the telecom, like the telecom part moving into public cloud, because me personally, at least, I haven't seen any telecom vendors actually move all their services in terms of 5G or whatever services they have, or like the 4G, the EPC into like public cloud. Like obviously they use the private cloud, and it can be multi-cloud with Red Hat and whether Huawei private cloud or Red Hat or for example Ericsson or Nokia, like Ali mentioned. It's just I've never seen examples of actually telecom vendors moving into public cloud, and I feel like they always have the fear of security issues. So my question is, have you seen, like, because you mentioned Vodafone right now, have you seen telecom vendors who actually moved their services into public cloud, like in terms of 5G services into public cloud, and they're actually working with it practically now and serving like customers? Because I haven't
Yes,
seen it personally.
yes
Okay.
and no. We have both the answers. You know, when I talk about the Vodafone, they have their compute resources and other 5G established both in AWS and in Nokia Cloud. So, and when you talk about the security, even US government and even I think Bahrain government, they are both hosted on AWS.
Of
And
course, and
even
this is why. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and even NASA
Sorry.
is hosted in AWS. So you can think about, it depends. When we talk about the security, it depends that okay, how well your security is actually designed, across
Of course.
across your footprint. So
Yeah.
um, it can be very poor or it can be very good. It all depends.
How much do you trust on your security team? That's the
Yeah, no, no. Of course, no. I understand that is, and I also know like there's a lot of governmental deals happening with the public cloud lately, public cloud vendors as we see online. But it's just I'm like, isn't it more practical for telecom vendors? They'd save so much money by moving into public cloud. But I haven't seen like at least like a lot of vendors moving into public cloud, like in terms of it being 100% into the public cloud, like 5G service 100% being there, because I feel like it saves them so much, capex at least, like when they're about to like deliver projects. So that's why I just asked this from a perspective is
Well,
why aren't they doing that?
usually such companies, when they have more concerns about the security, they usually go with the hybrid solution. They don't go, full
Fully,
blown cloud
fully,
services with cloud.
yeah,
They usually go with hybrid and start slowly and gradually moving the things between the two. They don't usually go directly to the cloud.
fair enough. All right, thanks guys for the discussion. Thank you a lot.
So I hope you understand the reality of the world today. If you are more specific about the telecom, they usually directly go to the cloud, they usually go with hybrid solution first, and then start moving things slow and gradually. When they keep keep testing the things, in terms of security, reliability, performance, scalability, and so on. All the things that we look here in the well architected framework, each and everything. So
Of course,
it is not a very
of course, but in
straightforward
years,
migration.
yeah, yeah, no, of course, but it's been years since this technology has been introduced. That's why it's a bit confusing not seeing like more than 10 years now. None of the tech vendors fully being public. I understand it's a migration process, but like that's why I'm asking like why haven't it been deployed fully publicly? I haven't seen it anywhere. I haven't heard about it. That's why I asked you, being experienced. Maybe you know like there's a bold reason why these people aren't actually doing this in a fast way, because I feel like it doesn't really take a lot of time if a telecom operator is actually dedicated to moving publicly into AWS or Azure or Google. But
Well,
yeah,
it is the same
it's
case with the pharmaceutical companies. It is not easy for them to adopt cloud 100%. Why? Because there are certain legal requirements that they need to fulfill. They cannot keep their manufacturing data or clinical trial data out of their country. So it means that until and unless their service provider that they choose, they have the footprint locally, they cannot go to the cloud. So in certain cases, yes, but there are, as we discuss, what needs to be considered while going to the cloud. These are some of the use cases that you can think of, especially for telecom as well, like the security, the cost optimization, operational excellence, performance, sustainability, and so on.
yeah,
I hope
noted,
that
noted.
answers your
That,
questions.
no, it was, yeah, it was very informative. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Just one thing I would like to add, Asaf here. And definitely the answer you have given is complete. But just to add one thing, but in 5G, eventually the providers will go on to the cloud. Not 100% maybe, but at least for the access part where the G node B, which would be the name of site in 5G, will directly connect it to the core, and the core would be on the cloud, and it would be containerized and everything. So that's the reason AWS has launched as private 5G services, and eventually other providers will add this type of services later on. So I think that
Of
would be
course.
the.
That's no.
Yeah. And thank you for the great question and the engagement that you have shown all the people. And we would like to clap for Asif Saab because he has shared a detailed information in a very limited time with examples, with uh, his expertise and all that stuff. So I hope you people have enjoyed that session, and we have the other part as well. So can you just move on, please, Asif Saab? Okay, so I would like to connect this a small part for a few slides because this is the most important question which is being asked most of the time. How do we start learning? Maybe if it is online learning or the on-site or maybe from the LMS. But why do you always prefer the instructor-led trainings? So if you could just move on one slide, Asif. Okay, recently I posted a question on LinkedIn and why people get distracted from the learning. So most of the people, around 50% of the people, half of the amount of the people were more focused on the first part, which is the lack of motivation and guidance. So that after posting this question, the concept of this webinar comes into my mind, and I ask, rather request Asif Saab to allocate some time and give us some guidance and the motivation because this is the source uh, of any learning. But what teacher does normally in the class, it gives you the motivation and the guidance because you can get knowledge from maybe from the YouTube, from the other uh, availability because now uh, in the current world, you have the facility, you have the availability rather I would say about the knowledge and everything. So but the main thing is that people get distracted easily. Let's suppose I'm learning uh, a Kubernetes uh, from YouTube, so maybe I will be checking my laptop sometime somebody will come in and ask some question to me. Maybe my Facebook notification will start ringing. Maybe somebody will calling me on WhatsApp, and there are so many distractions over there. So what we can achieve, uh, if we come into the class, maybe it is on site or maybe it is online, because now things are digital. We have been in this webinar, and we are connecting from different part of the world. I'm very happy to see, rather, with people from Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, and different parts of from Europe. So people from UAE, they are joining in, and maybe their time difference is there, but people are coming in. They just wanted to learn, and they are getting knowledge out of it. So can you guys move the slide, Asaf, please? Okay, so these are some obstacle apart from these four which I posted on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's an information overload. I remember one time, like it's like 20 years ago, when we were sitting in a library and we keep on searching books, and we cannot find the appropriate book, and maybe that book is already issued. At that time, somebody told me, a teacher of mine, he said that there would be a time when you will be facing information overload. And believe me, at that time, I didn't have any idea how it is possible. For example, I'll give you a very small story. Let's suppose I go to the Google Cloud, Google, and I write, okay, let's suppose 5G, as we are talking about 5G. So I'll start searching with the 5G, then I'll go to the cloud, and then I'll go to the coronavirus, and then I can roam around for some vaccine issue, and then Mark Zuckerberg, and then I can lost anywhere, because there's so much information, and maybe I would not be able to pick the right information which I'm looking for. And there are different type of perspective over there, because if you write, like, for example, is 5G, so maybe you are getting all options. Is 5G good? Is 5G bad? Is 5G harmful? So there are so many different perspective over there. Now it's your job, it's your task to isolate which one is correct. Maybe if there are someone who can guide you, who can ask you to, like, go this way and get best out of it. And when you are learning alone or online, there's a lack of engagement always there, because like in this webinar, we keep on engaging ourselves with different participants. People are asking question on chat, or maybe we have given the availability so they can speak up on the mic, and keep on engaging different people with the questions, with the ideas. So that's the idea, basically, what we uh, perceive when we are taking the class, because there is always there are some good content, some dull content, some topics are very bore, some topics are very engaging. So it's a job of a trainer, or I would say the word facilitator. The teacher is like an old mythology now. Now you have the knowledge which is available on internet, on the books, on everywhere. You can just go to the chat GPT and write a simple prompt. Please teach me about cloud computing in as if I am a 5 years old kid. So ChatGPT will eventually tell you everything in a text format, but that could be dull. That could be a lack of engagement factors there. Maybe he will give you some very vague options. Maybe it is not compatible with your previous experience. Maybe he will be giving you an exam bookish definition all the way. But when you just sit in a class, maybe I'm again repeating that word, maybe it is online or it's on site. A teacher will always try to communicate in your language with your requirements. For example, if you go to a doctor would not give you the medicine right away. He will ask you some question. Okay, what had you in the dinner last night? Do you have any problem with allergy or something like that? So the doctor will ask you some question, because these questions will help you to get the best out of from a doctor. He will use his experience, and he will ask you to take some medicine, and the other guy, maybe he will only ask him to, okay, please change your food pattern, or maybe you should take some exercise. You don't need any medication or something. So that depends upon the requirement. That's why we always think one factor a lot, that learning of a same thing. For example, I have two guys. One is Tilal and other one is Afaq. Both is want to learn AWS, but maybe Afaq has experience about Linux and IT sites, but Tilal has no experience. So the requirement is the same, but the skill set is different. So requirement is not guide the students. Actually, the skill set and the experience will. Can you just move on? So there are a few factors which is written over here, that when you just come for the customized learning, so we just created plan according to your need. Maybe as I give you example, like two people come in and they ask for AWS learning. First of all, we will ask some question. So do you have any idea about basic IT infrastructure? Are you good with IP planning and IP networks? And you are having some experience of Linux? And then we will ask how much time do you have? So we will tailor made solution for you that will be extremely personalized to you and your learning, and then we'll keep engaging you with different factors. For example, what are the engagement factors? First of all, engagement could be seen in a class, that how much, like if webinar is so much engaging, then you can easily understand how much the class would be. And then we keep on giving you task assignment on every single class. It's not like after a module you will getting a test and assignment. No, by every class, by end of every session, you will be getting a simple list of tasks that you need to perform, and then we will give the feedback. And it is structured in a simple way that it will easily fulfill your requirements. And the engagement factor will give you the boost, and also maybe there are one-on-one class, maybe it is a uh, one or one, two, three people. So you can have the facility, so you can network them, and you can learn from there with the peers, with the expert, with the other experts. We always add our students, or you can say the people in a group, so they can communicate with other people. Like you also see in the webinar that everyone was posting question. They can talk to each other. They are helping each other. So that when you teach someone, you will learn twice. That is the main agenda which we keep on following. Because when you post a question, maybe I had the same problem, but I did not ask. So if you have asked that question, so it will help the other people. So I hope this little information, or you can say, I would not say this is uh, uh, a topic like Ashish Saab had told you about AWS. It's just a small discussion, because we keep on getting these questions like, sir, we don't have the time. How can we do this? I don't have experience of uh, AWS before. I don't have experience of IT. So will this class will suits me? So we just focus with the customized approach. Maybe sometime we ask people, okay, join the group, because it is covering all what you are required. So what we can offer you in upcoming days is that we are having one Azure fast-paced training, which is going to start from 12th November, and it will be leading by Hasif Saab. Definitely, you have seen his expertise and his master in command in a cloud. So we had one course of AWS recently, and then we are starting Azure class. But this class is little bit of different requirement. It's a fast pace. It's like 5 to 8 session class, and then we have a few slots of AWS one-on-one coaching, which will be extremely personalized according to your need. But definitely, it will be more covering on the DevOps part and its tool. And in December, there is another uh, great opportunity of design thinking webinar. It would be not like a short webinar. It would be like 2 or 3 hour. I would rather say a boot camp, where we will be thinking how to think, and we will be designing our solutions. Because design thinking is not like you are designing some graphics and all that stuff. It is more related with your complete solution designing. It could be your cloud solution, your IT infrastructure, and all that stuff. And then we have a bunch of customized training. Maybe we have not mentioned over here. We have networking solutions, we have cloud solutions training, we have DevOps complete solutions, and we have another like Azure and AWS multi-cloud training. So you can discuss us. We will try to help you, and we'll try to success you. And the main thing, and there are some links over here. Maybe I can post on a chat as well, so you can easily communicate with us. There's a website. You can communicate on WhatsApp, and definitely we have a community. So you can join this community where you will get everything about trainings, about learnings, about new technologies, and also you can book a session with us, and that is extremely no charge involved. It's completely free. You can discuss any solution. You can discuss with me, with Asif Saab, with Siraj, with our other fellows. Zen. So you can come up with you just need to book a session, and then we will give you a slot, or maybe you can select a slot from the available slots, and we can help you, because it's more about the community thing. And then if you are convinced and you look for some training or maybe guidance, maybe you will not going for a course or training, maybe you need just a guidance or a mentorship, so you can have this as well. And then definitely it will help you a lot. So what I can do, I can paste all the links in a chat as well, so that will help you to communicate with us, and definitely it will benefit all of us. Well, I would suggest to join this community, the last link, and then if you want, and even you can post a question, and we can, if you do not want to book a session, you can just post a question, and we will get back with the answer within no time. So the link of question I will post in a chat as well. So you can post on any query, any question you can ask over here. So I am open with any question, any guidance. We are here. You can discuss with us. We are away here for the next 10 minutes or more. And then if you want to ask any question or share any advice, we can allow you to open the mic. And I hope this AWS session, or a cloud session, I would say, because mostly he covered AWS and Azure as well. Uh, it's really helpful for me. Even I learned something very great. So over to you. If you have any question, you can ask. Jazakallah, Ali Reza, thank you for your kind wishes and all that stuff. Okay. So any question, any query, I'm open to ask, open to listen and help you out.
I would like to say thank you everyone for joining and for taking your time out, just to listen to this webinar. We really appreciate your presence, and we are more than happy to get your feedback, your questions, even after this session. As Bashir Saab mentioned about the community where you can post your questions, you can reach out to us with your queries, with your needs for learning, um, with any mentorship related questions, or any guidance that you seek for your personal or professional growth.
And we also would like to have a feedback. Maybe you can write over here, or maybe you can post on Google. You can search BAZTechKnow, and I have given you a link as well. Or you can search BAZTechKnow on Google. You will find all the details.
Thank you very much, guys. Any further questions related to cloud computing, AWS, Azure, or instructor-led trainings in particular? Thank you, Afaq. If not, then we can close the session. As Bashir Saab mentioned, you can always reach out to us with your queries, with your questions. So even after this webinar, there is an opportunity available to reach out to us, raise your questions, your queries, and we wish you all the best in your professional life. Thank you.